Hey, it's Nay, and welcome to Nay's Little Garden and Home. So, we're really getting into the planning of the 2026 garden. We've talked about peppers, we've talked about tomatoes, we've talked about carrots. I was going to then talk about, we've also discussed onions. I was going to go ahead and talk about like beets and maybe some other things, but I think I'm going to stop it at, and did I talk about squash? I don't think I released my squash video. That will get its own video. But outside of like tomatoes, peppers, onions, and squash, everything else is kind of very simple, one or two varieties, or I may not even be growing them. So we're not going to talk about that. What I wanted to talk about in this video is about my grow bags, right? We're going to start breaking down the garden and what may or may not be a good idea to put in your raised beds / in-ground and or grow bags, right? So the first thing I want to say is peppers will keep producing. Peppers take a while to ripen. So, in my opinion, and feel free to drop down in the comment section how you feel about this as well, but in my opinion, I think it is almost better to go ahead and just put the peppers in grow bags. Because at the end of the day, right, they are something that you want to keep in your garden for as long as possible to have the best harvest situations, right? Whereas something like tomatoes, indeterminate tomatoes can keep growing, sure, but I feel as if it's a little less like, oh my gosh, it's taking up this space for such an obnoxious amount of time, especially since a lot of times, at least for me personally, you can just rip those tomato plants out after a certain while because they end up getting diseased or whatever could happen to them, right? So they just get ill. And I think it's almost a little bit easier to replant tomatoes, or, well, it depends on the time, right? But you could certainly try for like a fall harvest of tomatoes and like beginning of August type vibes or whatever, and potentially get one or two harvests before it's too cold. But I definitely feel like when it comes to, I'm going to show you my chicken scratch. Please, not too much on me. But this is kind of where I'm working with when it comes to my grow bags, right? So I have 20 gallon grow bags, 10 15 gallon grow bags, and 5 10 gallon grow bags. And I feel like I have a couple 5 gallon grow bags, but we don't have that here. So basically 35 grow bags of different gallon sizes I have, and I mostly have peppers in here. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 of these grow bags are tomatoes. The rest are peppers. And I did that on purpose, like I told you why, right? So we discussed, wait, pause. 11 of these are, because the giant crimson is a pepper. 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 11 of them, excuse me. 11 of them are, in fact, tomatoes. I also felt like I had to, the thing about grow bags, you really could just grow everything in a grow bag. I just have raised beds. But I want to grow, I also feel like, peppers can grow in smaller grow bags and still be okay if they're smaller peppers. And when it comes to putting tomatoes, like the slicing tomatoes in a grow bag, they come out okay, but I feel like they reach a point that it takes peppers for some reason longer to reach. Let me know if you agree with that. The point being, I feel like no matter, like I'll give it nutrients and it still might not be enough to keep it growing at the rate it was, versus like somehow peppers, especially like smaller peppers or, well, smaller peppers, you could put 2 pepper plants in there, right? I think it's much harder as well to put more than 1 tomato plant in a grow bag, right? So then you're taking up more space for only 1 plant in a grow bag. Versus peppers, like for example, I have here the tangerine dream pepper. I planted 2 tangerine pepper plants in one 20-gallon grow bag this past grow season, right? And they produced so many peppers. The plant's size was small. Like, this is things you need to look at. How big is this plant gonna like potentially get? And do they put a lot on for the plant size, like the actual produce? And I feel like when it comes to peppers, a lot more peppers are typically a little smaller, and they can put a lot more peppers on per plant. Versus like a lot of the tomatoes, if you're growing just like cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, this is a different situation. But I'm growing a bunch of different ones. Like the giant crimson, I'm gonna put 1 plant in there. The Lesia, I have a couple bags I'm putting for that one, so I might do 2 in one bag and 1 in another and see how they do, because the Advarsky is probably gonna get 1. The Gosia d'Oro, I might do 1 bag with 2, 1 bag with 1. But like a lot of the times when it comes to peppers, you can put 2 in one bag and it will help, and they can actually like help situate each other as well. Smaller peppers like arroz con pollo pepper, habanero peppers, those are peppers that you can put 2, or you can, and just remember, you have to keep fertilizing these plants, right? And then in like, I'm gonna see what the 10-gallon grow bags do with the sun sugar and the sun gold peppers. And then spicy peppers typically are not like massive peppers, so those are also really good in grow bags. And what's also great is you can kind of like, depending on where you put them away from your sweet peppers to make it less likely for those seeds to mash together. And because if you try to save seeds from a sweet pepper and touch the spicy pepper than the sweet pepper, you're gonna end up with spicy, probably, right? So you want to take time with that. But yeah, I also think, so when you're organizing your grow bags, right, you want to sit there and figure out exactly how many bags you have, and then figure out what you want to plant in those bags. And then you need to save this, because I did something similar to this last year, and then I kind of went out there and I wasn't always looking at this paper. And so I ended up putting stuff and not putting things where I actually anticipated, and it actually affected my yields. So if you're gonna go through all of this work of writing all of these things down, you then need to take this paper out with you and follow these directions. These are now directions that you have written for yourself that you should in fact follow, right? So I have so much space for Lesia peppers. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grow bags I am giving to Lesia pepper. I absolutely adore the Lesia pepper, and that's something else I want you to take into consideration. Do not sit there and grow more varieties and give yourself less plants of the varieties you actually like, right? So on average, 2 minimum is kind of where I sit. In case something happens to one of those plants, the second plant hopefully would have been fine. So everything here at least has 2 plants. However, if I really like something, it will get more. And like more grow bags, and or like, for example, I only did 1 grow bag of Tangerine Dream this year, but there was 2 plants in it. But I gave myself 2 of the 20-gallon grow bags this year, which means I should have 4 plants this year. I also really enjoyed the Tangerine Dream. Versus the Lesia pepper actually got more grow bags because I intend to grow more. So like I said, with the 20-gallon grow bag, I might try to grow 2 Lesia plants in that, see how that goes. But I have 4 15-gallon grow bags that I'm giving to Lesia pepper, and I'm gonna sit there and only put 1 plant in each of those and see what happens with those. And my goal is to get more of the things I already know my family and I enjoy, and then give myself little pockets for things that we are testing out or we didn't have as great of yields. I actually don't have banana peppers at all on my growing for this year as of right now. I kind of replaced it with the yellow monster. So the sweet banana peppers kind of got replaced with yellow monster. I hope I don't regret that, because we actually got pretty decent yields for the banana peppers this year. But I think I also just really like a little bit of a bigger sweet pepper than a smaller one. Let me know if you agree with that, if you feel like if it's going to be a sweet pepper, it should be bigger, or if you don't care what size it is. Because when it comes to like a lot of things, cutting them, feeling like I have to add more than less, but then I also have to take into consideration sometimes the bigger bell peppers I only use half. for a recipe, and then it almost forces me to make sure I use the other half sooner than later, because you know sometimes you get lazy when it comes to cooking and stuff. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, anyway, so I'm real quick walkthrough of some of the peppers I'll be growing. The yellow monster, the Lesia. I have two varieties of Lesia, the red one and the orange one. The Ajvarsky, Gosia de Oro, Tangerine Dream, Ozark Giant, the Habanada, the Arroz con Pollo. Ooh, and then my husband has is gonna pick two like super spicy peppers that are gonna grow, and I put those in the 10-gallon grow bags just because they're typically smaller. So another thing, this is actual true chicken scratch here, but I like drew out the size of my different beds on different pages, and I started that, putting them in different raised beds. Now I feel like my grow bags right now are much more this is what's gonna happen than my actual raised beds. I might shift raised beds depending, but the grow bags are pretty exacting about which size grow bags I'm gonna put where. And I'm doing that because some of the stuff I had in grow bags, like my monkey face and my Zabranges, were in grow bags. And I reserved the right. Grow bags are so much cheaper than raised beds overall, meaning to actually purchase grow bags is cheaper, and to fill the grow bags is cheaper because they take a lot less soil. So I reserved the right to obviously go ahead and purchase more grow bags and just fill up with soil and change that and put them in there. But for right now, I have those type of things in raised beds. I also, funny enough, reserved the raised bed for those exact peppers I just was reading off to you in one of my 2x4 raised beds. The Ozark, the Gosia, Ajvarsky yellow, and the red Lesia. And then I have a Jimmy Nardello in there, which is a whole nother conversation. But that is in a 2x4 raised bed. The other thing I went ahead and did, because I just listed off 6 different plants, and I said a 2x4. I went ahead and took away some spacing. Because I found I was trying to put plants in spaces and then felt like, yeah, this should take up 1 square foot, but a lot of these raised beds, I feel like, aren't exactly giving you a raised, like a square foot like it claims it is. And then it messes with your numbers. So I am going to be working with 148 square feet of raised I think that's just my raised beds. I don't think I counted my gallon grow bags at all. And that actually is less than what I'm actually working with. If you're like, okay, so for example, 6x3 is technically, right, 18 square feet, but I'm using 15 because I just, like I said, I don't feel like I actually had 18 when working with it. The 8x4s is what, 32? I put 28. The 2x4s, I put 6. You know how much that is, right? So the 6x3s, I already said that. 8x4, I already said that. Okay. The 2x3s, I'm using only 4. And I'm going to see how that helps in terms of the growth of my stuff, and as well as me being able to reach stuff in the raised bed. What I ended up doing was losing some produce to my fear of reaching in or stepping into these 8x4 raised beds. I'm not saying an 8x4 raised bed is bad at all. I like them. However, when it comes to plants like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, plants that are going to grow, one plant is going to grow multiple produce on that plant. Bugs is really real, and bees are really real, and all types of things, and then messing up your soil in the raised bed, trying to step in to reach. All of those things affected my ability to reach into the center, as well as, to be real with you, even just fertilizing, like trying to reach over other plants to fertilize the center of the raised bed is a lot. I think moving forward, I'm trying not to do wider than 3 feet, but it just something you have to take into consideration. Like, it's almost like the wider raised bed is, right, and wider and longer, the less likely you are to fully be able to use it to its full capacity for plants that create multiple produce. So, for example, things like beets and carrots are great in 8x4 raised beds, I think, because they're low and they only produce, one plant produces one produce item, and then you don't have to continue worrying about it versus reaching in constantly. It's just a lot. It is. And trying to like reach for like tomatoes like on the arch trellis, you can go underneath the arch trellis and reach tomatoes, and then there's going to be some tomatoes, like the tomato plants grow crazy, that will branch out over towards more of the center of the opposite side of the raised bed, and you're going to go around and you're going to have tomatoes or whatever else in front of you and be trying to reach. And I know you're probably like, girl, it's just bugs. Guys, you don't know what's in there. You know what's going on. You're going to reach your body in there. Something going to drop on you. It's just too much. So, yeah, that's also something I'm taking into consideration, even when I'm trying to draw out these raised beds. Like, oh, my gosh, my handwriting. I just scribbled for this. But, like, for example, like, I have this here. This. How am I going to explain this to you for you to make sense? So this would be where the arch trellis starts and goes over to the other side. So this whole section I put for just squash. And then in the middle, I put onions. And then around it is peppers and tomatoes, because I'll be able to reach at the edge of it to just easily reach for the peppers and tomatoes. And then when it's time to harvest these onions, I will then harvest these onions. Either I will harvest them or I'll have my husband harvest them, and then it will be a one-time thing while I'll pull them up. And I might just toss some carrots or something. Does that make sense? Let me know if you agree with that, or if you're like, girl, I need you to get over that. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Thank you so much for watching this whole video. Don't forget to hit that like button and that subscribe button. Join the fam. We're walking through gardening together, because I'm new to this, not yet true to this, but we'll get there. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.